Okay, hello, it's Rag Carcass here. I'm in the middle of moving my game table. As you can see, it's kind of in pieces here. So, yeah, I've appropriated my kids' art room. And I got a bunch of shelves and whatnot in here. And this is, I guess, going to be my new game room, or as some people like to refer to it, the war room. I'm not sure what I'm going to call this thing. I think it's just a game room. That's good enough for me because this table's designed not just for X's and Allies, but for everything else. So the purpose of this video is, one, to show the leftovers of the previous occupant. And two, I never did get to do a video on my table building. So I'm going to kind of go over my table as we go here. So the main frame of my table is actually upside down. And this is the bottom of my shelves. So my tabletop sits on top of this. But I took the pedestal legs off so I could get it through that doorway here. So yeah, so next step here is I'm going to flip the pedestal legs into the frame here. And just like it was designed, you just lay it on the floor, you put the legs inside, and you're good to go. And I don't have my, there it is. Here's my trusty little thing here. It's not the best tripod for this maybe, but my better one is a little too big and awkward, and it won't sit on my shelves. Here, let's see if it fits on top of these things. You know what? We're going to stop the video here, and we're just going to put a bunch of clips together. That way it makes more sense. I'll get the measuring tape out and give people a rundown on what is here in case they want to do something similar. All right, here we go. Okay, now the pedestal legs are just loosely placed into the table as it sits upside down. It's designed so that the top of the legs is actually flush or level with the top of the tabletop, where my sheet of plywood rests on top. Now this is purely designed for ease of assembly and disassembly. As you can see, I just took the pedestal legs and I just dropped it into place. The pedestal itself, in order to properly support itself, I had to, as you can see on the leg on that end there, there's a piece of plywood there that supports it from shifting side to side so that the legs don't separate from each other. And this cross brace on the bottom is so that the bottom of the, like these 2x4s, like the ladder shape there, is a future shelf, but it's also there so that the legs don't separate from each other at the bottom, going outwards like so. And then on this side here again, it's a little difficult to see, but I also have the plywood, so that prevents this from rocking this way. Now that 45 I have in there is there because without it, the legs will rock that way, and then there's no stability to this thing. So by having those two different types of cross braces, and there will be a 45 on the right hand side as well. I just removed it completely for ease of getting through the doorway. All right, yeah, so there you have it. This is 29 inches wide and 69 inches long, the pedestal base itself. The dimensions of that were designed specifically to fit through doorways in my house. So if your doorways are only 28 inches long, make it narrower, right? Or wide, sorry. And if your doorways happen to be way wider, where you got, like, say, a 3-foot door, 36 inches or so, then you can make it a little bit wider. Partially the reason for this, though, is this entire white shelf here is the footroom for the individuals who are sitting around my table. So I wanted it to be a smaller pedestal, almost like a pool table. That way you could walk around it or sit around it without banging your knees and your toes on stuff. All right, so what I'm going to do now is, here, let's angle this down a little bit. As you can see, this is it's loose, right? So now what I need to do is I need to screw my legs into the frame at the bottom. And once I've done that, I'm going to flip the table upside down, or right side up, and I'll show you the next piece of work here. Alright, hope you guys are enjoying this. Off to the next. Okay, so using 3-inch screws, I've attached the pedestal to the frame of the tabletop, and it's difficult to see, but you can see them right, where's my finger, right there. See those 2 holes there? Put a couple screws into the side of the table leg. It comes up and then goes in there. This way you can put it together on the floor. Right now, that's the one person job. I built this table out of 2x4 studs, or 2-inch by 4-inch studs. Well, kiln dried, so they're a little bit smaller, but the purpose for that is I wanted it to be strong, beefy, have 6 to 8 people sitting around it, leaning on it, bumping into it, playing around it, you know. That way I'm not worried about the table falling down and hurting somebody. I don't want to have this tabletop just resting on top of a fold-up table, which we were doing before, and it was very unstable and awkward. So the whole purpose of this is to make it as stable as possible. That way it's like a piece of furniture in my house. It's ugly, I'll give it that, but it can always be refinished. I just wanted to make a general model, and all the materials involved, including the 3/4-inch sanded plywood that is the tabletop, the studs, was a couple of scrap pieces of plywood, the full sheet of plywood that I use as a cover, the screws, the shelving, and the shelving here, this white stuff, that is I believe it's a 12-inch. It's prefab shelving that you can get at a hardware store just to put on your walls there. And I used 2 full sheets on the sides. This one here I had to cut with a skill saw, or a circular saw, to cut the end off because it was too long. And the third piece here is in the back there, sitting up. I made that little piece of frame on there is a little bit extra I put on there. That way I could make the shelf a little bit longer on that end and have a little bit more shelf space, so to speak, outside of the tabletop. Alright, so I'm going to leave it here, and I'm going to get an assistance, hopefully from the wife when she's got some free time. And we're going to flip this table on its edge and flip it right upside down from where it is now, so that the bottom of the legs, which are no longer in the air, are on the ground. Alright, and I'll see you then. Okay, so with the assistance of my wife, we've flipped the table upside down, or right side up, so to speak. Now, the table was originally built so that we could accommodate either the global games, which are right here, Axis and Allies Global 1940, and yeah, of course I moved something, so the cat's got to check it out. And so this section in here is actually 32 inches wide, and then from this cross brace all the way over to that cross brace is 72 inches, or 6 feet by 32, so just a little bit under 3 feet. And that's the actual with the pedestal legs here. And as you can see, the legs are the 2x4s that stick straight up, one here, one there, and then I got the 2 in the corners. So in order to keep this square, so it doesn't want to wobble and misform or misshape itself, we put in these 2 45s on each end, and that keeps the whole thing square. And this entire platform here is actually the playing surface that the base for my playing surface to lay on top of. Now, these boards here are almost 24 inches across. In fact, they're from the edge of that one to the center of this one, 24. No, a little bit more. Like, they're not exactly perfect. I didn't make it to be perfect, but it's they're approximately every 2 feet. I got one of these, right? 2, 4, 6 feet, give or take, right? The intent was to have the outer edge 6 feet wide. And 32 across. That way, one, the pedestal fits through the doorway. The width wasn't so much a big deal because I could cut a board that will fit the global games perfectly and set it right on top of here. And then I wouldn't need this extra cross bracing on the side. But the reason I have that is I built that so that my I had a table ledge around, and this section here actually is where is outside of the table, right? I have an edge that sits on top of this. So for that reason, my sheet of plywood is 48 inches wide, and I added an extra 1/4 inch to accommodate the felt or vinyl or whatever you put on top of your board, and or don't, and then also gives you some wiggle room to get slided in and out without it being so tight a fit that it rubs off on the sides. And then I added the size of my frame that goes around the plywood to give it that leaning edge, and also gives it the ability to be a covered table. So next step here is I'm gonna sadly disappoint these kitties, especially that guy who's just chilling out in there, the Fred, because in order to take this thing apart, I had added these shelves and that extension over there, so I had to remove them from the end of the table here in order to take my legs off. So I've corrected that problem. I no longer need to do that because I had screwed it in from the end here, and then I had all that stuff on top, like an extra board that goes across. It was a nightmare. So I'm gonna put that back on, and once I have that back on, you'll see the whole table in its full size, and I'll go get the rim, which actually attaches right around the edge here. All right, I'll leave you there, and hopefully you're still finding this entertaining. And I'm trying to give you a general idea on ways that you can build a table of your own. Take the things I've done and go, well, you know, I don't like that. Well, at least you know how I built it and what I built it out of, so you can, and why, so that you can accommodate for yourself here. All right, and I'll leave you there. I'll see you. Okay, so now we have the full table. That is, it's full 8 feet and then 3 1/4 inches to accommodate the rim. I've just attached the last bit of that shelf onto the end there. Everything I'm doing here is with screws. That way, if I don't like it or I want to change it, I can change it. I find the use of nails to be too destructive when you want to redo something. So, especially something like this where you're building a prototype and you keep changing it, you don't want to get too excited. Now, I don't know if you can really see this properly, but I'm pretty sure this opens up. What else can say? Yeah, there we go. I knew I had a way to do that with this crazy thing. So here is the rim, and I just got to put the rim on the frame there. And once the rim's on, actually I'll probably put the sheet of plywood on it and the rim all at the same time here. I'm not going to attach anything tight. I'll screw it on there after I show you how it's put together and why. And that should be simple enough. And as you can see, I got a couple of chairs in there already, just so that I can work on my stuff here. All right, so let's put this thing down, and I am now ready to rock and roll. And hopefully next clip you see here, I'll have the either the rim, like the leading edge here, on, or the table top itself, or both. All right, see you in a bit. All right, so there's the table in completion here, and same as last clip actually. You'll see that this frame here is flush with these. It was intentional. It's been screwed on with L brackets, and I'm not sure if you can see that or not. You can't really see it, but here. Solve the problem. So as you can see, there's an L bracket underneath, and then this is just floating. This tabletop is free floating. So let's zoom this thing out. So as you can see, the tabletop is free floating, and I can actually lift it up and out. And that is intentionally by design, so that you can put the cover on it. You can change this out if you get this damaged or whatever. You decide you want to put a map surface or something in there. It always fits because there's an 1/8 of an inch gap designed into each of the 4 dimensions, the 4 sides of this. All right, and that's the big gist. So the only reason that this thing is staying square is it's been screwed on at the L brackets on the corners here to make sure that it's flush all the way around. So there you are. There's my table. This is a 4x8 3/4 inch sheet of plywood with vinyl wrap on it and just stapled around on the back side. This was designed to be 8 foot, I believe it's 8 foot 3 inches, but measure it yourself to add that extra 8 foot 3 inches and 1/4 is the length of these sides, and then the inner piece there is 4 feet and 1/4 as well to give me that extra 1/8 of an inch on each side. And yes, this dude's here. But there we go. So that's the setup. And this room now has a door, so I can keep the critters out. All right, there. That's a quick rundown on my table here, and eventually I'll get this all figured out and organized. And yeah, if you have any questions about this said table or possibilities or suggestions, I'll take them, because I'm okay with remodeling this thing. I had it for about 2 years now, and this is the second time I've had to move it, and yeah, it moves. All right, see ya.